Have you ever just sat there and stared at your gunpla collection and wondered, if these kits randomly came to life, which of these could actually kill me? Well, one thing I can say for certain is, this definitely could. Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this isn't just any review, this is a perfect grade review. What is this? In the space of a month, we got both a master grade Verka, which was the Fats Verka, and now we've got a perfect grade. Sure, this isn't necessarily a new perfect grade per se, it is just a variant of one we would have seen before. This, of course, is the perfect grade Perfect Strike Gundam, which is a variant of 2005's perfect grade Strike Gundam. However, this right here is not just some basic rehash of this kit. Sure, internally it's pretty much all the same, but we've got one hell of an exterior redesign and, well, a whole ton of new weaponry. Seriously, this thing has a 16-inch sword and a 15-inch gun. This kit is no joke. Anyway, as always, this video right here would not be possible without those absolutely awesome people over at HobbyLink Japan. So if you want yourself a perfect grade, perfect Strike Gundam of your own or for any of your gunpla needs, check out that link down there in the description. But now let's get into this review. So without any further ado, there is the perfect grade Perfect Strike Gundam in all of its absolute glory. I will mention I did put quite a bit of effort into this, and by quite a bit of effort I mean quite a bit of effort by my standards, which is panel lining and the decals. So really just kind of the basics. So that is, I did panel line this with grey and black Gundam markers, and I did use the included decals. These are sticker style decals, so even though this is a high-end kit, you don't get high-end decals. A little bit of a letdown, but they still look okay. But before I actually talk about the Perfect Strike Gundam anymore, I'm going to take all of that stuff off it so we can take a look at the basic bot. I will mention that, compared to any other version of the Perfect Strike Gundam I've ever looked at, this is so simple, so smart, and dare I say, it might just be perfect. But before we do take a look at that model kit, we're going to be taking a look at the big old box. So first off, there is the front of that absolutely honkin' box. It pretty much gives you a good idea of what you're getting in here. That, of course, is a bit of an overview of the Perfect Strike Gundam and its weapons, as well as a bit of a close-up of its face. Around on the back then, this is where we get all that information of exactly what is different about this kit to what we would have seen before. The most obvious aspect is just all of that stuff. This kit combines the standard Strike Gundam with the Aile Strike Gundam, the Sword Strike Gundam, and the Launcher Strike Gundam. So you can build all of those or the Perfect Strike Gundam. That is 4 separate different options, which is crazy. We also got some information on a bit of an update in the face. It's mainly in the muzzle section. We've got some info on the frame, but the frame of this is exactly the same as what we would have seen with the previous Perfect Grade Strike. In here we also have some silver plated parts, which is a bit reminiscent of what we would have seen on the Master Grade Double Zeta Verka. These look very nice, but I have a minor issue with those I'll mention later. But from what we can see from the box and what I can tell you for definite, this is one impressive set right here. Now let's get back to the model. So anyway, we're going to be taking a look at the Perfect Grade Perfect Strike Gundam as just the standard Strike Gundam. Of course, for comparison's sake, over here on the right, I've got the standard 2005 version of the Perfect Grade Strike, which is still a fantastic kit, so much so I did make a video based on this right here as a good perfect grade that isn't all that expensive. However, once you get into this guy right here with all the stuff added in, it does get a little bit pricey, but there is still always the option of this guy. I will also mention at this point that this isn't necessarily a fair comparison per se, because the Perfect Strike Gundam, which is right here, this is the brand new one on the left, that has been panel lined, and I've also used some of the decals, whereas as for the standard Perfect Grade Strike over here, that hasn't been given either. No panel lines, no stickers. So there is a little bit more effort put into this guy here than that one, but I am going to show you everything that's different between the two, and then give you the full rotation of both so you can check out which one you like the most. So now bashing through the differences pretty quickly. Once again, these are all exterior, nothing is on the internal side, so all the frame etc. is the same as before. So first off, the head is a little bit different. Again, it is just the armor. Internally it's the same with the same LED gimmick for the eyes. So the biggest difference to me, of course, is the physical differences, like those little vents in the cheeks of the muzzle. We do not have that in the older version here. The Vulcans inside the head here, those are silver plated, like a lot of the nice silver plated parts are on this kit. The V-fin up there, as you can see, is an actual, well, V-shaped. It doesn't have these little knobs up top. It is just sharp, and I will mention that it does come with a lot of extra parts left over on the runner. So I had broken the V-fin on my old perfect grade Strike Gundam, so if there is anything, for example like the white part of the V-fin, not the red or the yellow, or any exterior armor parts, there's a lot of those that are repeated in this kit left over on the runners that you could use to repair broken segments on your perfect grade Strike. I'm not going to go through them all in this video, but I will mention if you did break your V-fin, good news, there is an extra in the box. It's slightly off color, but that just could be age. Anyway, there is both heads side by side. Once again, V-fin is different. Flip them to the side there. There's some more exterior detailing on it, and flipping it around to the back, there's some more there as well. But once again, it is just exterior detail, and honestly, they both look great. Down to the torso now, there's a lot more detail here on the perfect grade perfect Strike on the left. We have that silver detailing, but I will mention that some of the knobs on this can be seen while looking directly at the chest. That is some bad knob placement right there for a perfect grade, but then again, it could be worse, definitely. At this point, you may or may not have noticed, but the frame of the new perfect grade perfect Strike actually has glitter in it. It's a darker blackish color with glitter through it, which almost gives it a bit of a metallic gunmetal vibe. Definitely a lot less plain looking than what we saw right here with this standard perfect grade variant. Moving now down onto the arms here, and the biggest difference for me definitely is those silver plated parts. We've got one up here on the shoulder, one down here on the forearm, which really stands out and pops compared to what we would have seen on the original variant. We also have another one here on the upper arm, and they look really classy. Really nice. Besides that, there is a little bit more panel detailing, etc., but the biggest difference for me is that awesome, beautiful silver. Moving down to the waist unit, and they're very similar, but once again, what really makes it for the new version is those silver plated parts. They really break up the white while not detracting from it too much. That looks phenomenal. One thing I had mentioned in the standard perfect grade Strike review is that there isn't really much panel lining opportunities on it. They have definitely changed this, as you can see here on the side skirting, but round back, everything is essentially the same. Onto the legs now, and round back they're essentially identical. Onto the sides, this section of armor here on the sides of the calves is so much more armored on the newer version that is the perfect Strike, and this little bit of armor down here on the ankle is a little bit thicker with a little bit of that silver plated parts once again. The feet, they are 100% the same as what we saw before. I almost forgot to mention we also have another bit of metallic parts inside of the knee. That looks pretty cool compared to the standard old grey knee. Also, the build is exactly the same with the die-cast parts in the legs, keeping it heavy towards the bottom. Anyway, there is the full 360-degree spin of both kits. That is the new one for this year on the left, that is the perfect Strike Gundam, and the older one from 2005 on the right, that is the perfect grade Strike Gundam. This is just so you can take a look at both from every possible angle and make up your own decision which you prefer better. Also, there might be something I forgot to mention, and you can check that out right now. Both kits do look fantastic. The newer one definitely more detailed, and those silver parts to me really do seal the deal. It is beautiful. But yeah, anyway, that is it for the comparison between the older version and the newer version, and honestly, it is just a cosmetic update to what we've seen before. Let's check out what really makes the perfect Strike Gundam the perfect Strike. So now moving straight into accessories, and I honestly have never ever had to crane my camera up this high or have it as far away from the kit as this right here. I mean, I can't reach, I'm over here, like to the side. That is ridiculous. Anyway, in the box we get the perfect grade perfect Strike Gundam itself, we get an action base, which is awesome. There is the sticker sheet. Once again, these are just stickers. These are not water slides or anything like that, just stickers. As with the standard set of weapons, we've got a pair of beam sabers, beam rifle, and a shield. Then we've got the Aile striker pack, as well as those battery packs for using with it to make the perfect Strike. And then we've all the parts over here for making this sword Strike Gundam, including the backpack, which is pretty awesome. And then over here on the right, we've all the parts for making the Launcher Strike Gundam, once again with the backpack as well, so you can make this as just the Launcher Striker. Or should I say, the Launcher Strike. As well as those, then we do have an extra set of holding hands. These are good and strong, set in a fixed pose. And finally, we've got a whole bunch of adapter bits back here for using with the perfect grade Sky Grasper. That I don't have, so in the review, we won't be looking at these. But anyway, let's take them one at a time. Man, even after I thought I was done listing everything out, there's a couple of things hidden way back here. That, of course, is 2 pilot figures. The one on the left is Mula Falaga. That is unique to this kit. The one on the right is Kira Yamato. He is not. He came with the original Perfect Grade Strike. And then we've got this little bit right here, which just stops the kit from tilting backwards once the Aile striker is attached. So we're going to break the accessories up into segments. We're starting off with the basics. So this is what the Strike Gundam would have without any of the striker packs attached. Then we'll take a look at the Aile striker, sword striker, launcher striker, and then finally put it all together for the perfect striker. So let's start off with these. And nothing comes much more simple than a pair of switchblades, and that is the Armor Schneiders. So we have 2 of these. These come on the exact same runner as the hand, so these are made of the same sort of built on the runner plastic. There's not much to say here. It is a knife. It can fold away just like so for when it's not in use. There is a quick example of what it looks like held in the hand. Yes, it's just a knife. And when it's not in use, you can pop open the side skirting like so, and it just pops in there like that, folds away, nice and tidy. Next up in here then we've got that beam rifle, exactly the same as what we would have seen before with the older Perfect Grade. I do adore the stickers that come with this because of what they say. For example, right here on the beam rifle, it just says beam rifle. It's got the names of the weapons, which is a really unique and awesome idea for stickers. You know, just in case I forget what something's called. Anyway, this one right here is the new one. This is the old variant, and you can kind of see that the plastic is a little bit darker. And the new one has a nice glittery finish, which kind of gives it that gunmetal look. That's pretty cool. As for the clear section for the sight, this time around it's in a darker, richer blue than what we would have seen before. As for moving parts, we have a side-to-side moving handle here. And we have this little grenade bit. Oh, that's lost and gone forever. Let's try with the older version. Can you actually get that out without... Oh, well, that's not a great design. That's meant to come out. So next up then of the equipment then is the shield. Honestly, from the front, I could not tell them apart. I have to, well, flip them around and see which one has the darker gunmetal plastic. This is the same as before, flippable, adjustable handle. This section here for attaching it, which can rotate. This little switch here that opens and closes this little segment of a window. That is it open. Flip it up and it is closed. And you may have noticed that this little arm section here is missing from this, which is this one here. The reason for that is, and this is a little bit annoying, is that the Panzer Eisen right here, which I would not have remembered the name of besides that handy dandy little sticker there, actually uses the exact same part, which as you can see is missing here because I've left it attached onto the back of the arm. But both of these shields do require that exact same piece, which is a bit of a pain in the butt. But seeing as we've seen both of these before in the previous review, let's move on. Sorry for hitting you there, Strike. So now we're going to be getting into the equipment that can make this into the Aile Strike Gundam. I will mention that this right here, the Aile Striker Pack, is a parts variant of what we would have seen with the Sky Grasper, but seeing as I've never reviewed the Perfect Grade Sky Grasper, I might as well take a quick look at it right now. As for moving parts, we've got up and down moving wings. The parts for attaching the beam sabers, those are on ball joints, can move around quite a bit. The lower jet segments, those can move up and down like so. There's a bit of in and out to these, not a whole lot, but it does mean this thing is solid as a rock. The most solid version I've ever seen of the Aile Striker Pack. However, I will mention that these little holes here in the segment that attach the sword and launcher parts, there is no way to hide those like we would have seen on the Master Grade Strike Remaster. So this is essentially what you'll get and what you have when you're using it to recreate the Aile Striker with this kit. Before attaching this pack, I am going to put in this little bit right here, which is the part that stops the kit from sagging backwards. That just attaches in underneath this thruster, just like so. There we go. I'll mention it right now while I'm looking at it. We do have a cool openy-closey flap right here for hiding that hole. But without any further ado, let's get that Aile Striker Pack attached. It just slots into the hole like so, simple as and solid as a rock. Impressive. It is also worth mentioning that this kit can hold up the weight of the Aile Striker Pack without much effort at all, which is impressive, mainly because it is so heavy and it does have those die-cast parts in the legs. The last couple of Aile Striker related pieces we have in here are the two beam sabers. Once again, these are perfect grade beam sabers, big enough to use as chopsticks, not really all that strong though. Right there is a bit of an example of what one of the beam sabers will look like attached. And of course, when they're not in use, you can just pull out the beam like so, place that elsewhere, and they can be stored right back here on the Aile Striker pack. Man, seriously, just take a look at that pack. It is so fantastic looking. I love me the Aile Striker pack. Anyway, there is the full 360 spin of what the Aile Strike Gundam will look like, made with the perfect grade, perfect strike box. And all I can say is, this thing looks phenomenal. There's nothing else I can say. Now moving on. So now moving on to the third form of this. We've seen the standard version, we've seen the Aile Strike, now moving on to the Sword Strike Gundam, and here is everything that we need to put that together. So first off in here we have the shoulder armor known as the Midas Messer. Once again, thanks to that handy dandy sticker for reminding me. This is made up of multiple segments. We have this movable shoulder armor and the beam boomerang that just pops out of there like so. I will mention that detail-wise this is really good, but at the same time it is quite simple, which keeps it solid and extremely easy to attach. But first, let's take a look at the boomerang. So just in case you're curious as to what this looks like not panel-lined, well, there you go. I only panel-lined the front because I was a little bit on the half-assed side with this. But anyway, there it is without the beam effect. The beam effect pops in simple as that right there. And there is that pretty awesome beam boomerang. It can be held in the hand via this little segment here with the detachable fingers, but it is kind of hard to get it to look a little bit natural. But that right there is my best 10-second attempt. Attaching the armor is as simple as this, removing this, attaching this, close this, pop on this, attach on this, swing it round, attach on the back, and there we go. Super simple and effective. Oh yeah, not to forget this. Next up then is the Panzer Eisen. We've got a moving segment here and a moving segment here, so this becomes a nice little claw. Pop this off. We've got these two absolutely tiny adapters, which pop in this end and pop in this end. And then using this fairly strong copper wire, we've got a grabby claw on a wire, and this isn't so bad. It's strong enough. It likes to rotate around at the other end a little bit, but hey, not so bad. And there is a quick example of what it looks like attached on, and all in all, not too bad. It does like to kind of rotate a little bit at this point, but in general, it's fine. A little bit weak here though. Might want to tighten up that peg right there. Next up then in here we've got the Sword Striker backpack that has the attachment point for the back. This arm section here is just a simple rotation, and the battery segment here can be removed and replaced with this one or another one if you prefer. That just pops into the back slot just like with the Aile Striker pack. So now moving on to what makes the Sword Strike, and that is 15 3/4 inches of, hold on, 16 inches of pure Gundam sword. So the video may not do this justice, so there is a monster can for a size comparison. So it's pretty much over twice the length of that. This has a little bit here for moving in and out. This is where it will attach onto the backpack or Aile Striker. We have one large effect part that attaches into the front of the sword like that, and a second one which attaches down on the bottom end. And seriously, that means this thing is even longer. I mean, seriously, this thing is absolutely huge. I find it hard to actually give this some scale for you guys. I mean, there it is beside the Master Grade Fats Verka, which it dwarfs. There it is beside a Master Grade Zaku, again dwarfing it. There it is beside the Metal Build Ava Unit 1, dwarfing that. I mean, seriously, there it is up beside the High Grade Neo Zeong, the Neo Zeong. This thing is crazy big. Thankfully, we do have a dedicated holding hand in here because these ones, they wouldn't have a chance. So this is essentially like a high-grade hand, which means it comes in half, plugs into the sword like that, and then the other half of the hand attaches on like this. But there's one annoying aspect to this. There is no back for this hand. You have to go and harvest it off the hand that was already attached. That's a bit cheap. So there is that full spin of the Sword Strike Gundam, so you might wonder what I was wondering, and that is, how well can this kit support that sword? And the answer is, with both hands, not a problem whatsoever. However, one-handed, at first out of the box it seemed okay, but over time it does feel like it's getting that little bit looser. So once again, both hands, no bother, one-armed, you're gonna have a little bit of trouble. But damn if it doesn't look good while doing it. Of course, when not in use, it can be stored up here on the shoulder. Just pop it up like so. Just don't leave the holding hand attached up there like that, like I did in the intro. So finally, we're moving on to what in this box makes this into the Launcher Strike. So that, of course, is everything down here. The shoulder armor, that massive... Hold on while I check that sticker label that tells me what it is. The Agni. As well as that, then, we do have the backpack. And also, once again, a dedicated hand. So there is the backpack. This is fairly self-explanatory. This is a pack for the back. It's a bunch of vents. It's all the same colored plastic. Besides, we do have 2 clear parts up there. To attach it, once again, it goes right here into the slot, just like so. There is that large shoulder armor section. We have these 2 wings or shields that move up and down. This moves down and up as well. Besides that, there are no other moving parts besides the Gatling here. This can retract and extend just like so. And of course, this is labeled 2. And this is the combo weapons unit. To attach this, once again, we do have a little adapter segment. Just pop up the armor here, pop up this, then remove this little plug, attach this in there like so, close it up, close that up, and now the armor, or should I say the combo weapons unit, is ready to attach. All you have to do then is line those holes up with those pegs. And once again, just like the Sword Strike, this attaches on very simply but very snugly. It's also quite lightweight, so it doesn't add too much bulk. In other words, this is very, very, very well designed. Next up in here, and out of all of the new weapons, this is probably the most detailed. This, of course, is the launcher aspect of this kit, and that is the Agni. So it looks great. This hasn't been detailed up or panelined or anything, but it still looks fantastic. We've got 2 opening segments here at the front, which open out like that. Almost midway down the length then, we've got this handle that moves in and out like so. Flipping on over to the other side then, we've got a second handle here, which moves up and down. Once again, we do have a blue clear segment in here as well as over here. And as for the arm attachment here, this is quite good. We've got a ball joint where it attaches to the launcher. We've got a hinge right here. Of course, can rotate then at this point all the way around. At the midway point then, we've got this range of motion right here, as well as some more rotation. And then finally, we have a ball joint here for attaching it into the backpack. I will mention though, it is a little bit on the loose side up here at that ball joint, but once again, this will be supported by the hands. And speaking of which, once again, to use this pre-post left hand, you just split that in half, kind of like a high-grade hand. Pop one half onto the handle, sandwich the second half on. Also, once again, we do have to rob the hand armor of the fully articulated hand that was attached to it already, then attach that onto that pre-posed hand. And to attach the launcher, you just plug it into the backpack, plug the hand into the wrist, and there we go. Once again, I will mention that it has a little bit of an issue holding this up with just one arm. It can hold it in some poses, but in general, it will flop down on you. I thought the little arm section coming from the backpack would give it a little more assistance than it actually does, but hey, it could be worse. But when held with both hands, that's one hand up front, one hand round back, it doesn't have much of a problem, like you can see right here, and it does look awesome. But you know what time it is? It's time to finally build that perfect Strike Gundam. So we already have the launcher and the combo unit thingamabobber up on the shoulder there attached, so those don't have to be changed. However, swing them around to the back, because this right here, we don't need. Off with that, and kapop. And back on with the Aile Striker Pack. Get on in there. Plug that launcher into the side of the Aile Striker. The sword attaches onto this side. Pop on the sword armor and boomerang. On with the Panzer Eisen. And the last thing then, which we haven't seen till now, is this set of batteries right here. It's all... Oh, chill out there. These are all the same, just 4 of the same kind of unit. We've got a bit of articulation right here like that, and a bit of rotation, but that's about it. Oh, you can also remove the batteries. And that just pops in under there, just like that. Anyway, there's the full 360-degree spin of it with everything on it. So this right here is the perfect grade, perfect Strike Gundam. You will notice that I have actually moved the launcher around to the back, and that's because I was having major issues with the base just falling forward. The weight of the launcher would either cause the striker pack to pop right off or cause this thing to face plant. So I'm not exactly sure how easy it will be to get this into some poses. I'm gonna try. But first, let's have a couple of size comparisons. Anyway, there it is, side by side with 2009's Gundam 00 Riser. I will mention that this is the Trans Am version, not the standard version, but the size is exactly the same. There they are from the side as well, because a lot of the perfect grade, perfect strike's mass is towards the back, so I'm going to do a front and side comparison for each guy here. Next up, there it is beside 2014's perfect grade Unicorn Gundam. This is one big Gundam here, but all the mass on the perfect grade strike, or should I say perfect grade perfect strike, definitely makes it look a lot bigger than it actually is. Once again, there it is from the side, and of course, the perfect grade perfect strike kind of wins outright here because of all of the extra stuff on it. But then again, if you want a big unicorn, then you want the Phoenix. I don't have one of those though. Next up, there it is beside 2017's perfect grade Exia, and after looking at the other two Gundams, which are pretty big, which was the 00 Riser and the Unicorn, Exia looks quite small for a perfect grade, doesn't it? There it is from the side, and once again, it's got some very small features, especially those feet. Those are some dainty feet. And lastly, there it is beside 2018's 00 Gundam 7 Sword G. So this is just a variant of the 00 Riser with less stuff, but it does have one big old sword. There it is from the side. There isn't really much to the back of this, unlike the 00 Riser. So that is everything I have when it comes to perfect grade. So I cannot finish off a size comparison without putting it beside the high grade Penelope. And once again, for a high grade, this thing is huge. Oh yeah, Core Gundam's been there the whole time, just in case you didn't notice. Finally, now what I wanted to try out was if I could pull off that pose that is inside the manual. And by if I could pull off this pose or not, I mean without any issues like the backpack falling off, the launcher falling off, all of that sort of annoying stuff that can happen sometimes with big old kits like this. So all I can say is this was absolutely perfect. So the issues I had when I was trying to attach the launcher on initially only seemed to be there because of the way that I was attaching it on before everything else. Once everything's on there, all the kind of counterbalancing between the heavy weapons out towards the front and sides and the heavy Aile striker pack towards the back all seems to work out well perfectly. So in the end, could I pull off this pose here without any hitches? Well, there it is. No problem whatsoever. Everything is held perfectly, including the sword in one hand, the launcher in one hand. With the launcher, you can kind of jam that little support arm into the side skirt, and then it doesn't really move around. You kind of just have to put it the right angle, and it will hold. So all that's left to do now is throw this up on the shelf for that shelf presence test. And finally, there is the perfect grade, perfect strike Gundam up where it belongs, up on a huge shelf full of gunpla. And all I can say is, for the majority, this is master grade kits, and this is dwarfing the likes of the Deep Striker, the full armor Gundam from Gundam Thunderbolt, the master grade Unicorn Perfectibility. They all look tiny beside it. Never mind those real grades, they look microscopic. Definitely this will stand out in any collection no matter how big or how many other kits you have in it. It's a big old kit even by perfect grade standards. So without a single doubt at all, this will be a jewel in anyone's collection. It looks phenomenal. Just make sure to free up some space because it is one monstrosity of a kit. So I think that is it for this review. It's probably gone on long enough already. So there is a couple of other aspects you may want to know about this kit. For example, the articulation as well as some of the gimmicks. But the standard version of the perfect grade strike, he's got you covered over in his review. So if you haven't seen that review already to see all those extra aspects, you can check that out right now. I'll throw up a card up in the corner. And just to sum it up right here really quickly, this kit has a lot of nice opening hatches, which makes it feel a little bit more premium than it first lets on. And the articulation is absolutely fantastic for something so big, so bulky, and at the same time, so solid. The perfect grade strike is such an awesome kit. I nearly said little kit. It ain't little. So that right there is it for the review, and this is one absolute beast of a mobile suit, one absolutely fantastic kit. This kit right here, well, it's kind of like an event. You spend so long building it, there's so many parts to it, there's so many choices with it, and it's solid as a rock. It is so awesome. It ticks every single box, but it is still gold tier, and that is why I feel a kit like this really does point out a massive gaping hole in my tiering system, and that is the line between gold tier and Gundarium tier. Gundarium tier is for kits that revolutionize the grade, basically feel like they're becoming something else, whereas gold tier is for something that feels like it's grade but perfected, and that's exactly what this is, and in a way I feel that is kind of not giving this kit the credit that it's due, so I'm gonna do something really lame and something silly, and I'm giving this double gold tier. And the reason is because this is pretty much a perfect grade, but it still feels like a perfect grade, but there's so much in the box and it all melds together perfectly, but nothing is necessarily any better or different from perfect grade quality, if you get what I mean. That might get a bit confusing. The best thing to just take home from this is, it's an awesome kit, you're gonna love it, and I absolutely adore this. For example, I would probably give the perfect grade Exia Gundarium tier, but I prefer this kit to Exia. I know, a bit confusing, right? If you get what I mean, you get what I mean. Sometimes simpler is better, especially when it works, and is a big absolute monstrosity of a monolithic, awesome perfect grade like this is. Either way, it's just downright awesome. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. If you want one of your own, there's a link down there in the description. You can get yours or any of your gunpla down there from Hobby Link Japan. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more gunpla reviews, and I will see you next time. As always, I cannot finish this video right here without thanking each and every one of you guys who watches my videos. Whether you just watch them, like them, share them, or support me on the channel memberships and Patreon like Craig Jerry, Kaiser721, Bolwick, Tyler Sanders, Caleb Engelhart, and Hank Handsome.